Back to the BBN Report, where we talk all things college football around these parts. And today we are back with another season prediction video. This one for the Pitt Panthers here. And if you're interested in seeing more of these kinds of videos, I have an entire playlist on my channel of all the teams I've done so far this season, including Kentucky, USC, I just did Georgia, and some others that are also on there if you're interested. I definitely recommend checking those videos out if you're interested in those. And one of my loyal viewers wanted a Pitt video, so I figured I'd go ahead and do that out of the way. And I'm sorry it took a little bit longer than expected to get this Pitt video out for you. I know you've been looking forward to it and getting my thoughts on Pitt this year. And I'll be honest, going into this, when I went in to do the research for this video, I'll be honest, I was not that high on Pitt. You know, they lost, like I said, they lost Kenny Pickett and the Bitnikoff winner from last year. And I kind of really thought last year may have been kind of a fluke. But last year was one of the best years in Pitt's history. I think the best season in probably 40 years for Pitt. Easily the best season in my lifetime. I was born in 1994. So obviously that's probably the best season they've had in my lifetime. I mean, they went 11-3 last season and even reached number 13th in the country last year in their first major bowl game in 17 years. So that's definitely a long time without a major bowl appearance. And with Pitt's performance last year, head coach Pat Narduzzi was awarded a contract extension through 2030. And what they lost is big this year for Pitt. But I think they hit some home runs in the transfer portal this year. So I definitely don't think Pitt's going to take too much of a step back. And I definitely think their schedule is very favorable for Pitt this year to get back to another good win total. Like I said, Pitt is going to be missing a few pieces that have moved on. They lost quarterback Kenny Pickett, who in my opinion, I think should have won the Heisman last year. I thought what Kenny Pickett did was a little bit more impressive. Now, again, I know Bryce Young down in Alabama has overall better numbers, but I thought what Kenny Pickett was able to do with lesser talent around him, I definitely thought he should have won the Heisman, but of course, politics play a little bit more into that. So they're going to have to overcome losing Kenny Pickett to the NFL. He moved down the hallway and is now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I think he might, maybe not this year, but next year will probably be the starting quarterback for the Steelers. And they're up to overcome last year's Kittenoff Award winner and Jordan Addison. That dude was an absolute stud last year. Obviously, he won the award for the best wide receiver in the nation. To try and replace Kenny Pickett's production, Pitt went into the transfer portal and they landed on USC transfer quarterback Kedon Slovis. He was a former Pac-12 Freshman of the Year with USC and completed 68% of his passes for 7,576 yards and 58 touchdowns in 3 seasons, with his first year being the best when he threw for 3,502 yards and 30 TDs. But backup quarterback Nick Pady could be a challenge for the starting quarterback role, even though I don't think so. I think Kedon Slovis is going to end up winning that job. Pitt is also going to have to deal with the departure of offensive coordinator Mark Whipple, who is now the offensive coordinator for Nebraska, trying to get them from the greatest 3-win team of all time. If you listen to the Ohio State fans that live around me, maybe try to get them to 4 or 5 wins out there in Nebraska. And last year, the Panthers ranked 3rd nationally in scoring and 41.4 points a game, and were number 8 in total offense and 48.6 yards a game. So they were definitely very hefty. And not to mention, Pitt's defense last year was one of the best in the nation too. That's one thing that made Pitt so deadly last year, was they could put up offense, and their defense was one of the best in the country. And a lot of people don't even realize that. If you don't pay attention at all to the ACC and you just see Pitt, you probably wouldn't expect that, but their defense was one of the best in the nation a year ago. Despite losing Jordan Addison out to USC, Pitt has some other really good weapons that they can really build the offense around. They have Jared Wayne, a senior who has 47 receptions, 658 yards, and 6 touchdowns. 2 other pass catchers to watch for: an Akron transfer, Kanata Mumfield, and freshman All-American last season with 68 receptions for 751 yards and 8 touchdowns. and sophomore tight end Gavin Bartholomew. So those are some other names in the offense to really keep in mind here when it comes to Pitt. I definitely think their offense is going to take a little bit of a step back without having an Addison in the game to throw to at pretty much any given time. But I think their offense is still going to be very good. You're not going to see as much passing because offensive coordinator Frank Signetti Jr. is a very run-first type of offensive coordinator. So I definitely think you're going to see Pitt running the ball a lot more this year than you did last year. So that's definitely going to be another thing to keep up with when it comes to Pitt. Another reason why I think you're going to see Pitt and Signetti run the ball a lot is the fact that Pitt returns 5 starters and tackles. Gabe Hoy and Carter Warren, guards Jake Cradall and Marcus Minor, and center Owen Drexel. Then the Panthers also return a trio of running backs and junior Israel Abakanada. I know that's definitely not right. Senior Vincent Davis and sophomore Rodney Hammond Jr. So I definitely think that with what Pitt has coming back, I definitely think their offense is still going to be a really good offense this year. And playing in the ACC, I definitely think you're going to see Pitt really take advantage of a conference that's really turned into more of a basketball conference these days. You look at the ACC in basketball, it's definitely a much better league than it is in football. And I think Pitt's going to be able to take advantage of that this season. And that offense of theirs, I think, is going to be a little bit more balanced this year than it was last year. Even though I don't think Pitt really went one way or the other, at least whenever the games that I saw Pitt play last year. But I think you're going to see a really, really balanced offense here. Like I said, they're going to have guys to throw the ball to. They're going to have guys to run the ball. And with Signetti being a run-first coordinator, I just think that's really going to balance this attack out for Pitt quite a bit. And they'll be able to do just about anything that they want. Remember earlier I was talking about how Pitt's defense was nasty a year ago? Well, they returned 6 All-ACC selections off that defense that ranked second nationally in sacks at 3.86 per game and fourth down defense at 26.9%. Pittsburgh also ranked 4th in defensive touchdowns with 5, 6th in run defense at 89.3 yards given up, 8th in interceptions with 16, and 39th in total defense at 353.6 yards a game. So, obviously, Pitt had a really good defense last year, and that's one of the reasons why they were able to stop Wake Forest, the Wake Forest offense in their ACC title game against Wake last year, and they were able to get that ACC champion crown. Defensive tackle Kalijah Kancey is the anchor on that defensive line. His 7 sacks and 13 tackles for loss last year earned him first-team All-ACC honors. All-ACC pick Habakkuk Bonado paced Pittsburgh with 9 sacks to go with 12 tackles for loss. 3 other key returners, senior and Deslin Alexander, and senior tackles David Green and Devin Danielson make the group one of the best in all of college football. And I think it's definitely going to be very tough to run the ball on Pitt this year. Like I said, they were really good at stopping the run last year with the 89 yards given up. So this is definitely, I don't think, going to be a unit that you're really going to be able to run on this year. If you're going to beat Pitt, it's going to be in the secondary. You're going to have to throw the ball to beat Pitt. And I'm going to get at here in a second. At linebacker, second team All-ACC pick, Savasi Dennis returns with the team best 87 tackles along with 9.5 tackles for loss and 4 sacks, and even had a blocked field goal for good measure. But after him, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty with the rest of the linebacker core. You know, because the rest of the 4 backers are definitely gone. But most notably, Captain Cam Bright, who transferred to Washington. And it's really going to be interesting to see like how that unit ends up coming together and who ends up playing what roles, because it's really an unproven unit. You know, Notre Dame transfer Shane Simon is an intriguing pick. Brandon George, Bengali Kamara, and sophomore Solomon DeShields they basically round out an untested unit. And very early in the season, it's going to be interesting to see how Pitt can overcome that and see what kind of chemistry those guys can build. I want to talk a little bit about Pitt's secondary here, and this is why I think that if you're going to beat Pitt, you are going to have to throw the football this year. That's, in my opinion, the only way you're going to be able to beat them. They do have three starters coming back, and which is good news. Let's be honest, that is good news in this day and age. And three starters and safeties: Eric Hallett II, Brandon Hill, and cornerback Marquise Williams. Now, Williams' numbers really weren't that impressive, or they should say not impressive. They should say uninspiring. Hallett, he did receive some All-ACC honorable mention recognition last year, and was a bright spot with 3 interceptions a year ago. So this is what Pitt has to do with the secondary here. They really need to find something early in the season. If they have any likes of trying to beat Tennessee, who's going to throw the ball a lot. Now, 2 other guys that could end up playing the other corner are going to be MJ Devonshire and or AJ Woods. That spot's really up for grabs, and I would really go to say basically all these spots in the secondary are probably up for grabs here in the fall camp that we have going on. But that's kind of been my offense and the defensive side of things. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get the schedule up on the screen here, and I'm going to go through game by game and tell you who I think Pitt's going to get wins against and who I think Pitt is going to end up falling to. As I say, you're looking at Pitt's schedule. I think this is actually a pretty favorable schedule for Pitt. I don't see anybody on this schedule I just look at and Pitt can't beat that team. So I definitely think this is a nice little schedule for Pitt this year. They can get back to that 10, 11 win mark from a year ago. But first up on their schedule, they have West Virginia. And West Virginia was not a very good team a year ago. And I don't think West Virginia is really going to improve too much into this year. I'm not saying that West Virginia has no shot at this game, because obviously it's a conference game. Anybody can beat anybody on any given Saturday, obviously. But this is just a game that I just don't see Pitt losing. I think they'll get a win at home against West Virginia. I just don't see West Virginia going on the road and getting a win here. West Virginia's not heading in a very good direction in their football program, at least in my opinion. Of course, I don't follow West Virginia all that closely, but they just don't seem like they're heading in the right direction. The following week, Tennessee. Pitt will host Tennessee. A game that was a really, really good game last year. This was a game that won by Pitt on the road at Neyland. But this year, Tennessee, like I said, last year Tennessee was a pretty good team for 7-5. Tennessee was a team who hung in with Alabama until midway through the fourth quarter for Alabama pulled away. They went on the road and beat a really good Kentucky team, 45-42, I believe was the final of that game. And overall, Tennessee's offense is extremely explosive. They returned Hendon Hooker this year. And I think Tennessee is going to be one of the best offenses in the nation. And go along with that, I think Tennessee is going to be one of the best teams in the SEC this year. I know it's crazy to think the way that Tennessee football has been the last 15 or so years, ever since they fired Philip Fulmer and Lane Kiffin left for Southern Cal in the middle of the night. I don't see Pitt beating Tennessee 2 years in a row here. I got Tennessee going on the road to Pitt and getting the win here. I think Tennessee might just be a little bit too much. I think the way their offense is structured, I don't know if an unproven secondary can stop Tennessee's offense. So I got Tennessee winning that game on the road. Before Pitt goes to Western Michigan, and this should be a no-brainer. I don't think Pitt should have too much of a difficulty winning this game right here. And they end up hosting Rhode Island. But also going to be another win here for Pitt. Once again, I don't see Pitt struggling with the Rhode Island team. If they struggle with Rhode Island, they got a lot of problems. Before they once again host Georgia Tech. And let's face it, Georgia Tech is going to be one of the worst teams in America this year. Georgia Tech is a complete, total dumpster fire down there. How their coach wasn't fired after last year is beyond me. But I would imagine the leash is probably pretty short on him this year. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get fired in the middle of this season. That being said, I just don't see Georgia Tech coming to Pitt and getting a win. And then Pitt hosts Virginia Tech. This could be a very interesting game. You know how Virginia Tech is. 1 year, Virginia Tech can be really, really good. The next year, they're so-so. 1 year, they're bad. you never know year to year what Virginia Tech team is going to show up. This, like I said, this is definitely a very interesting game on the schedule. It's at the end of what, a 3-week stretch there of home games. Should be a win. I think this will be a win for Pitt. I don't think Virginia Tech's back in the Virginia Tech that we know. So I definitely think that this will end up being a win for Pitt, at least in my opinion. Then Pitt has their bye week before they go on the road to Louisville. This is another game that I think could be very interesting. I think Louisville is going to be better than what they've been for the previous 4 or so years. In the post-Lamar Jackson era especially. I think Louisville's back on the upswing. I like that they haven't fired Scatterfield yet. I actually think he is a good coach. And I think he's building a Louisville program the right way. But I don't know if Louisville's ready to beat a top 25 team yet. So I have you guys going on the road to Louisville and getting a win over the Cardinals before going on the road at North Carolina, one of 2021's most disappointing teams. Everybody thought North Carolina was going to be a top 10 team last year, and no sooner in the gate, they got out of the gates, and North Carolina did not look very good. They just kind of looked like a team who was getting a lot of hype. They just weren't there yet. It ultimately ended up being one of the most disappointing teams in the nation a year ago. As everybody knows, they went from preseason 9th to unranked pretty quickly last year. But that being said, I got Pitt going to Chapel Hill and picking up a loss. I think there's a good chance North Carolina could be that team that everybody thought they were going to be that last year. And I think there's a good chance that North Carolina may have just been a year away. And if that's the case, I think that Pitt goes on the road and picks up a loss here to a really good North Carolina team. Before hosting Syracuse, let's face it, that will end up being a win. Syracuse is a dumpster fire. Everybody knows that. And then they will host Virginia, which I also believe will be a win. You're basically playing 5 straight basketball schools here. Virginia's football team is just not very good. Everybody knows that. I think this will definitely be an easy win for Pitt before they host Duke. Another dumpster fire of a program in which I don't see Pitt having much problem at all beating Duke. This would be a game I think could get out of hand by halftime. Same with Virginia and Syracuse. Before the last game of the season, they go to Miami. A brand new Miami team, basically. Mario Cristobal is down there now. And say what you will about Miami, but Miami really is going to be back very soon. Mario Cristobal is one of the best recruiters in America. He has ties to the southeast part of the country. And some of the talent that he's already bringing in down there in Miami, they could end up having a really good team this year. And that being said, I think Pitt picks up a loss at Miami. That's a long flight. You're going to get a team that's going to be very talented, especially with the transfers that Miami's brought in. And this is going to be overall, probably this I think will be, other than Tennessee, will be Pitt's biggest test of how good they truly are. But I think Miami is going to get that big win. I think Miami is going to be looking for a huge win, a huge statement win to close out the year. There's a very good chance that they get it when Pitt comes to town. But that is how I think Pitt's season is going to go. That's kind of, 9-3. I think that's really good if you're Pitt. I know they won 11 games last year. But, could very well take a step back. And I do think Kenny Pickett and no longer having Pickett or Addison is really going to end up hurting them this year. Especially when they play somebody like a North Carolina or a Miami. So, that's my thoughts. You can go ahead and comment down below if you think that Pitt's going to do better than this or you think they're going to do worse than this. You can tell me what you think about Pitt on the season, and I'll go ahead and I'll catch you guys in the next one.